Ukraine war. Russia admits mobilization air amid growing public opposition. The Russian authorities say 300,000 army reservists will be called, but media reports suggest the figure could be much higher. The Kremlin has admitted mistakes were made in its drive to mobilize Russian army reservists to fight in Ukraine amid growing public opposition. There are cases when the decree is violated. Russian President Vladimir Putin's spokesman said, adding that all the errors will be corrected. Multiple reports say people with no military experience or who are too old or disabled are being called up. Last week's mobilization decree has already triggered widespread protests. President Putin announced what he described as partial mobilization on 21st of September, with Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu later saying 300,000 reservists would be called up. However, reports in opposition Russian media suggested that up to 1 million people could be called up, pointing out that one paragraph believed to be about the exact number of the required reservists was omitted or classified in the published version of Mr. Putin's decree on the official Kremlin website. A number of military experts in the West and Ukraine say Mr. Putin's decision to call up reservists show that Russian troops are failing badly on the battlefield in Ukraine. More than 7 months after Moscow launched its invasion. Since the mobilization announcement, more than 2,000 people have been detained at protests across Russia. Hundreds arrested as Russia draft protests continue. Russia reveals exemptions as men flee call up. What does Russian military call up mean for Ukraine? At a briefing on Monday, Mr. Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, conceded that mistakes were being made. He said that in some regions, governors are actively working to rectify the situation. Mr. Peskov also said he was unaware of any decisions to shut up Russia's borders and impose martial law in the country. Media reports earlier suggested this could be done to stop potential recruits escaping abroad. Since the mobilization was announced, many young Russians have been seeking to leave the country. Satellite images show lengthy queues of Russian cars on the border with Georgia. Traffic jam near Russia's border with Georgia at 25th September 2022 in the latest sign of growing public protest. A man critically injured an army recruitment officer in the Siberian city of Ust-Limsk on Monday. Footage has emerged on social media apparently showing the attacker approaching the officer and then shooting him. People in the building are then seen screaming and running in panic after the gunman shouted them to flee. Over the weekend, people in Russia's Dagestan Republic in the North Caucasus clashed with police over the mobilization drive. More than 100 people were arrested during protests in the regional capital, Makhachkala, said OVD Info, an independent Russian human rights monitor. There have also been reports of a number of arson attacks on recruitment centers and other administrative buildings across Russia. A group of women successfully chases away a lone policeman at an anti-mobilization protest in Dagestan, Francis Carr said. In his announcement about the mobilization last week, Mr. Putin did not specify how many reservists would be called up. But speaking immediately after the president, Mr. Shoigu said 300,000 reservists, people who have had military experience and required specialist skills, would be enlisted. The minister said this was just over 1% of Russia's 25 million military reserve potential. This process would be spread over several months. Certain age and disability limits would apply. The mobilization decree said it provided no further details. It is believed that males aged 18 to 60, and in some cases even older, could be mobilized. Some Russian commentators immediately cast serious doubts on the promises of the president. In his defense, minister that the call-up would be limited. They pointed out that the decree said nothing about exceptions, such as not recruiting students or conscripts. They suggested this would be left to regional heads to decide who to call in order to meet quotas. On 24th of September, Mr. Putin issued a new decree specifically stating that students would be deferred from the draft. Before launching its invasion on 24 February, Russia had amassed about 190,000 troops along Ukraine's borders